Willow's key scraped in the lock of the silent trailer. Mark's car was gone, probably at O'Malley's, where he nursed his rage with whiskey shots. She sank onto the edge of their sagging mattress, fingertips ghosting over her throbbing neck. The bruises felt like betrayal, but the real shame burned elsewhere. In the memory of Eden's cool fingers against her skin, the way she'd leaned into his touch for just a moment. A floorboard creaked in the living room. The scent hit her before any other warning, sandalwood and something electric, like the air before lightning strikes. It didn't belong here among the mildew and cigarette smoke that clung to the walls. The smell intensified, wrapping around her like expensive silk. She stood up slowly, making her way out of the bedroom. Her eyes landed on the shadows stretched across the worn floors. Willow's breath caught in her damaged throat. Her eyes tracked to the darkest corner where Mark's recliner sat, the one with the beer stains and cigarette burns. In it sat a figure that made her heart nearly burst out of her chest. Eden. He looked perfectly at home, his legs crossed elegantly, his hands resting on the armrest. In the dim light, his eyes were two chips of flint. He didn't say a word. He simply watched her, the silence between them growing heavy and suffocating. Crunch. Tires bit into gravel outside. Headlights swept across the ceilings. Stark white bars crawled across water-stained plaster before Mark's truck gave a final phlegm cough and died. The car door slammed like a gunshot. Then came the footsteps, heavy, dragging, the gait of a man who'd poured whiskey over his rage. "Mr. Eden, please," Willow whispered, her fear rising. "He's drunk. He has a gun. If he finds you here..." Eden's lips curled, not into a smile, but in anticipation. "Perfect," he said softly, not moving an inch. "I've been curious to find out the kind of man who hides behind those bruises he leaves on you." The door kicked open. "Willow! You..." Mark's voice boomed, slurred, and thick with more than just anger. He stood in the frame, his face flushed purple, a half-empty bottle in his hand. He stopped dead, his eyes darting from Willow, frightened and tear-streaked, to the tall, impeccably dressed man, slowly standing up from his chair. "Who the hell are you?" Mark roared, the bottleneck tightening in his grip. "Low, what is this? You're bringing your rich boyfriends home now?" "Mark, no, it's not like that," Willow started, stepping between them, but Eden's hands moved with the speed of a striking snake. He caught her by the waist and pulled her firmly behind him. "She told you she was late because of me," Eden said, his voice dropping to a level that was colder than the rain outside. He stepped towards Mark, eyes fixed on the man's throat. "I'm the rich prick from the mansion, and I've come to realize that you are an obstacle to Willow's professional development, among other things." Mark lunged, bottle raised high. "Get the hell out of my house!" Willow's scream caught in her throat as she squeezed her eyes shut. The expected crash of glass never came. Instead, she heard a sound like a melon splitting, followed by the whoosh of expelled breath and the dull thud of dead weight hitting carpet. When she forced her eyes open, Eden stood perfectly composed, adjusting his French cuffs as if he'd merely reached for a book on a high shelf. Mark laid sprawl at his feet, mouth working like a landed fish, a thin crimson line trailing from his hairline. Eden's polished shoe nudged Mark's shoulder, turning him slightly as one might inspect roadkill. His lips curled. "You're going to leave now, Mark," Eden said softly, reaching into his coat pocket and pulling out a heavy, leather-bound folder. He tossed it onto Mark's chest. "Inside is a deed to the garage you work at. I bought it this afternoon, along with your debt. You're fired. You're evicted. And if I see you within a mile of Willow again, I won't be nearly this civil." He turned to look at Willow, his expression melting into a terrifyingly sweet smile. "Pack your things, Willow. Your new quarters at the estate are already prepared." Willow's world crumbled and vanished before she could even blink. The violence of Mark's lunges and the clinical's absolute efficiency of Eden's retaliation had stripped her of her ability to think. She stood in the center of the room, her delicate frame shaking so violently that her teeth literally chattered. She looked down at Mark. He was the man she had loved, or thought she had loved, now reduced to a pathetic, gasping heap on a stained rug, clutching a folder that represented his total ruin. She should have felt pity. She should have reached out. But as she looked at him, all she felt was a cold, hollow vacuum where her heart used to be. The memory of his hand around her throat, the way her back hit walls, doors, refrigerators, the way he grabbed her hair with enough force to scalp her. And all she could think about was if she stayed, especially after this, was how much more damage those hands would do. "Willow." Eden's voice called her back. It was soft, like a silk ribbon. He stepped over Mark as if he was merely a piece of discarded furniture. He reached out, his long, cool fingers cupping her jaw, forcing her to look up into the depths of his dark eyes. There was no rage there now, only a terrifying, possessive adoration. "The car is waiting," he whispered. "Don't look at the mess. Look at me. I've taken care of everything. No more bills, no more grease, no more hands on your throat that don't belong there." He didn't wait for her to agree. He simply took her hand. His grip was firm, not the bruising, desperate squeeze of Mark, but a steady, unbreakable tether. Willow felt like a ghost as he led her towards the door. She didn't grab her favorite book. She didn't grab her toothbrush. She left her life behind in that cramped trailer, stepping over the threshold and onto the wet pavement. Outside, the black SUV sat idling like a purring beast. The rain had turned into a downpour. Eden's umbrella unfurled with a snap that made Willow flinch. He held it at a precise angle, creating a perfect circle of dry air around her, while raindrops pelted his own shoulders. His free hand pressed against the small of her back, neither pushing nor pulling, simply there, inescapable as gravity. The leather seats absorbed her like quicksand. The sandalwood scent wrapped around her throat where Mark's fingers had been hours before. Through the rain-streaked window, the trailer yellow light framed Mark's silhouette as he staggered upright, one hand braced against the wall. Something twisted in her chest. Not quite regret, not quite relief. His fingers closed over hers, cold, dry, unyielding. "Don't look back, Willow," Eden said, his voice humming with a dark, triumphant satisfaction. "There's nothing left for you there. From now on, your world begins and ends at the gate of my estate. You'll see. You'll be so much happier when you realize you don't have to choose anymore. I've chosen for you." The words washed over her, their meaning slipping beneath the surface of her shock like stones into dark water.